resistance to it and people going in different directions.
And it's crazy that she's actually now saying neoliberalism once again. And this is a repeat. Oh my God, Jon Stewart, what the fuck are you doing? She's saying neoliberalism is the only way to fight back against the isolationist policies of the right. The right is just pure fascism. They are an extension, a continuation of neoliberal policies. They're like a fan of yours as a Twitter, who knows? That could be sick. It's never going to happen, but I mean, it would be great.
Zanny, Minton, Beddoes. Lovely to see you. The chair's moved. I hope you're all right.
I'm all right.
When I was here 9 years ago, we almost killed Jimmy Carter with the rolling chairs. He almost went all the way back.
No, it swivels this way.
It does swivel. We have the Economist. This is your magazine. We have it. We brought it with us. I don't know if you can see that there. Look at that there. And it's got a Post-it note in there for...
What, the right page
I have
you need
no
to look
idea
at?
why there's a Post-it note in there. I thought there was a centerfold. It wasn't there. I don't know what was happening. Welcome to the show, though. We very much appreciate it. I wanted to ask you, you know...
Fucking guy, bro. Good one.
The Economist wrote about some of Joe Biden's issues.
I've been outed as a Turkish man.
You wrote, is he going to be up for the job in the second term? What were the concerns that you guys had then?
So we wrote after the midterms that he should not stand for a second term. And, you know, when he came in, he was hoping to be, he said pretty much that he wanted to be a one-term president. He was a grown-up. He would save the country from Donald Trump.
He was the bridge candidate.
He was the bridge candidate.
He didn't say which bridge. Wasn't the Williamsburg Bridge. It's one of those bridges in Florida that go 30 miles.
Absolutely. And I think after the midterms, we thought that it was time for him to kind of make that clear. He would have been, had he said he was going to be a one-term president, he would have been a remarkable one-term president. He's achieved an unbelievable amount for one term. But now we are where we are here, and huge majorities of the American people, including huge majorities of Democrats, think he is too old for a second term. It's really alarming that the only person between us and the return of Donald Trump is a frail 81-year-old.
You said that like Voldemort. You said the return of Donald Trump.
Yeah, no, it really worries me. And it may be a little weird, but for those of us outside the U.S.,
well, couldn't they say, though, if you say I had a remarkable first term, what's to say I won't have a remarkable second term?
He's 81 years old.
What?
You know, he is the same age pretty much as my father. I love my father dearly. My father's a wonderful man, but my father should be nowhere near the most important job in the world. He probably never should have been. But 81-year-olds...
He doesn't watch this thing, does he? Does he watch comedy?
This may be a little explanation we'll have to go on later. But an 81-year-old, you know what they're like at 81. You know what they're going to be like at 85. You know, time travels one way and people go in one direction at that age.
Why are you looking at me like that when you say that? That seemed awfully personal.
As you said at the beginning of the show, you're a good 20 years younger. You know, you've got a long time still.
It's pretty interesting. But let me ask you, so there is obviously a press pool. There's a White House press corps. There's a certain amount of mystery that seems to surround this. All the people behind the scenes are saying, you don't know like we know. He's leading these meetings. He's unbelievable. I wish you could see it. But certainly there are press people that travel with the president. Surely, I have not seen people come out with first-hand accounts. They have not come out and said...
bounding along Air Force One.
Right, or just said, I follow the president, I'm with him every day, he is unbelievably sharp, he's just camera shy, or whatever it is, but nobody is making those. It makes it seem conspiratorial.
Yeah, and I think what is clear is that it is quite hard to get access to this president. He is very carefully shepherded around. He doesn't do very much...
I wonder why. Because he's in a fucking chamber, okay? Because they fucking put him in a permafrost and then use like one of those fucking blow dryers to slowly but surely warm him up before they put him outside.
Many press conferences. He doesn't do very many interviews. I assume that's for a reason. And I hear the same thing. You know, he's very sharp. He talks for a long time. He can outlast anybody in a meeting. I'm perfectly prepared to believe that on some subjects that's true. Joe Biden knows a huge amount about foreign policy. He is exactly the right person to have in the Oval Office in the world as it is we have today. And I'm sure on certain things he can go for hours and hours and hours. He can probably be in negotiations for a long time. But does that mean he should be president for another 2 terms? I think it's worrying.
Now, when you say
one term, another 2 terms.
One term, yeah. The world order is changing. And there is a part, you know, the economy.
He's got the stamina to keep me satisfied sexually. Oh, yeah. He can fucking clap my cheeks, dude. He's blowing. Brandon's blowing my back walls out, okay, for hours and hours and hours.
Economist is certainly, you know, it does represent a certain mainstream point of view or establishment.
Well, actually, interestingly, we stand for good classic English liberalism. It's not the same as an American liberal, which is more of a lefty, but the English liberalism...
Am I going to get tested?
Yeah, by the way, this is a right-winger chat. Like, for those of you who don't understand, remember when I always talk about, like, liberalism as a political theory? Like, in Europe, when you say liberal, that means you're a right-winger. Okay? Just so you understand, which I'm shocked that people are always surprised. Liberalism in the EU is used as the correct terminology. Okay? When someone says, I'm a liberal in a European country, that means they are center-right. Okay? That is the correct political designation. Now, one might even say that's the correct political designation for the United States of America. I am the one who says that. As a matter of fact, I do believe that liberalism still is center-right here, except we have no leftist opposition. Therefore, liberalism is the furthest left you can go in this country, even though it is still very much center-right. Just remember that. What do they call a lefty then? A fucking dead person, okay? A commie. A communist. Nancy Pelosi.
Tested on this? Because I don't...
I'm going to start with a little lesson here. But no, we believe in individual freedom, free markets, limited government. We've kind of believed in that for a long time. And for a long time, you're right, our view was the kind of mainstream view. You know, Reaganism, Thatcherism, even Clintonism, you know, it wasn't...
Oh, Lennon on The Economist. This is a fucking incredible take. While the state exists, there can be no freedom. When there is freedom, there will be no state. Lennon died on this day. He dismissed our newspaper as a journal which speaks for British millionaires. Cooked.
Too far apart. That was the mainstream
That's right.
view. But now we're absolutely not the mainstream view. Now, you know...
I should have said establishment.
Wait, hold on. I want to hear
that for a long time. And for a long time, you're right. Our view was the kind of mainstream view. You know, Reaganism, Thatcherism, even Clintonism, you know, it wasn't too far apart. That was the...
Neoliberalism. She is describing neoliberalism, which is government intervention only for market reform. Government intervention is only permissible as long as it is done at the behest of capital. That is what neoliberalism is. That's why Thatcherism and Reaganism are under the same exact umbrella. That's why Clinton is a continuation of Reaganism. Take it from a person who believes those values and maybe understand it. Okay?
The mainstream
That's right.
view. But now we're absolutely not the mainstream view. Now, you know...
I should have said establishment. I think it's more the status quo.
Well, we're absolutely not the establishment view. Now, industrial policy is in, big state is in, protectionism is in, all manner of things that we traditionally didn't believe in. And so our kind of liberalism, I think, is very much...
All this stuff is also still bullshit. We are still very much living in the neoliberal era. Okay? We are still very much living under neoliberalism. The notion that we are now doing like real protectionism or whatever is silly as fuck. There is just so little of that. There's so little of that overall. But I guess like she means that it is still the establishment viewpoint It's still the establishment viewpoint. However, while it is the establishment viewpoint, the attitude on the ground is shifting, except even back then, the attitude on the ground wasn't exactly favorable towards neoliberalism. We just kind of did it regardless. Like, it's not like people didn't fight tooth and nail against Thatcher and Reagan. Unions specifically did that, and it didn't matter. They wiped them out.
Much not the mainstream view now, and we're championing liberalism in the face, actually, of pretty concerted resistance to it and people going in different directions.
And it's crazy that she's actually now saying neoliberalism once again, and this is a repeat. Oh my God, Jon Stewart, what the fuck are you doing? She's saying neoliberalism is the only way to fight back against the isolationist policies of the right. The right is just pure fascism. They are an extension, a continuation of neoliberal policies. Their government intervention will only be at the behest of capital in the same exact way that liberals in the United States of America, or same way that Reagan or Thatcher intervened in the markets. Okay? It's so fucking stupid. It's so dumb. The only difference is, like, one is homo-fascism, the other one is just straight fascism. That's it. She's like, you don't understand. We need to do homo-fascism. We need to do fascism but gay. All right? As opposed to the straight fascism that's homophobic. The real important part of this is the homosexual part. Of course, no transgenders. I am British after all. It's all spices and flavoring on neoliberalism. You got protectionist seasoning and Republicans, union seasoning on Biden, but at the end of the day, they're neoliberal policies by top to bottom.
The whole kind of Trumpist assault, if you will. In fact, our cover, this week's cover, is going to be about this, almost certainly, unless something dramatic happens, which is about national conservatism. This idea which, you know, the MAGA Republicans have, but also a bunch of conservatives in Europe, you know, Viktor Orban, Giorgia Meloni in Italy, Marine Le Pen in France. There are differences between them, but they're united by an idea that they want to be anti-globalist, they're anti-trade, they're very skeptical of
Oh my God, bro, shut the fuck up. That's all fake nonsense, dude. Oh my God, oh my God. Like, what real deviation do these fucking people have from the others that are supposed to be the neoliberal, the neoliberal arbiters of, like, or the neoliberal protectors of, like, liberal democracy? Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, Macron versus Le Pen, the idea that, like, Macron is less reactionary than Le Pen is silly. He's aligning with Le Pen on reactionary immigration, anti-migrant agendas, okay? And the idea that Le Pen would be somehow protectionist or isolationist or anti-global trade is also stupid. It's not real. That's not a real thing at all. They're both anti-labor in the exact same fucking ways. One uses left-wing economic populism, Le Pen does, but overall, they're not actually in any way, shape, or form different. It's just pure rhetoric. That's the seasoning they add to the pile is maybe a little different. They don't deviate that much on social issues, and they certainly don't deviate that much on trade. That is really fucking dumb. That's really dumb to say for Macron versus Le Pen. It's also dumb to say for Meloni versus what? The previous Italian administration? All the way since fucking Berlusconi. They've been literally designing the Italian government to be far right versus directly fascist Mussolini's next line of next of kin, pretty much. And that's not even an exaggeration, by the way. Marine Le Pen's father collaborated with the Nazis, okay? And Meloni literally is aligned with Malone. Everything's a fascist is so fucking stupid to say. These are literal fucking fascists. That's crazy. Brother, Marine Le Pen's father is a straight up Nazi collaborator. Okay. And she is following in those footsteps. And not only that, but Maloney directly is a fascist, like actually, like was a pro-Mussolini person in her youth. Okay? And I'm not talking like, oh, lol, oh, these guys are fascists. Like, no, straight up, I'm saying like, actually, she is pro-Mussolini. You call everyone a fascist. Yeah, I know. I mean, this is the classic bit. I'm not going to do it right now. Yeah, next thing I know, I'm going to say NATO is filled to the brim with fucking former Nazis or current Nazis. Yes. Anyway. Jean-Marie Le Pen said the Holocaust was a detail of history. Yeah. Le Pen tortured one of my friend's grandfathers who was not even Arabic because he was hiding Algerian resistance during the Algeria War. You can tell how little someone knows about the world if they seriously think Europe is not either neoliberal or straight up fascist and it's getting worse. Yes. I have been ringing the alarm bells for years and years and years. This level of neoliberal market reforms at the behest of capital that cripples social safety nets and creates economic volatility was inevitably going to cause a lot of Europeans to go back to their old school attitudes. Okay? We're forgetting that this is the continent that invented white supremacy. Okay, I know America carries the torch pretty fucking aggressively now, so we kind of forget. But these are the guys, okay? These are the guys who invented it. And they did a damn good job of carrying it for a very long time. It seems like liberalism in and of itself kind of softened that a little bit. A lot of these like former empires brought in a bunch of people either by force or because they had to through the colonial remnants, I guess. So they became diverse societies to a certain degree. But now you're seeing the AfD becoming a serious fucking a serious contender in German politics. It's because Americans are told so often how socialist Europe is and the U.S. education system is terrible and raises students to be ahistorical and apolitical as much as possible. This is why, yes, Nazis lost, but fascism won after World War II because America carried the torch of fascism, sometimes directly. AfD 2 based, it's going to get even more. Kanal dit stiv. Yeah, dude, you're definitely going to make it out the cut, brother. Keep fantasizing about a fucking white supremacist future that you're going to be living in. Like, you're definitely, on God, you're going to get pussy, bro. I swear. If all the Turks are deported from Germany, I promise someone's going to give you pussy. You're going to get that. You're going to get the Helga Coochie, dude. I promise. Okay? You are so easy. I'm simply trolling. Okay. No, you're not, by the way. I'm just letting you know. It's still going to be fucking other fascists that get all the pussy, and you're going to sit there wondering why you're still there bitchless, okay? What happened? We pushed for the AfD, and I thought I would finally have some traditionalist Helga pussy. Why? Why am I still bitchless? What is wrong? Oh mein Gott, ich kann nicht glauben, here I am, sitting maidenless. What the fuck? I thought if I vote for the AFC party and we bring about the white supremacist Nazi Germany, I would get the pussy now, yeah? No! Where is meine state-sponsored wife? They still want to fuck the Chad Adolf instead of me. Why do they want to fuck the Chad? I thought I was promised a Fraulein. Where is it? Wo ist meine Fraulein? Dumb bitch. Anyway. Where has this character been sleeping? I rarely ever fucking shit on Germans, but lately they deserve all the smoke, okay? And same with Viktor Orban. The notion that Viktor Orban is like a protectionist is also a silly one when his entire economy relies on the EU to be propped up and kept alive. So miss me with that fucking bullshit. Because someone was asking like, what about Viktor Orban? What about Viktor Orban? It's like, yeah, there you go. What about Viktor Orban? These guys, listen, fascism and liberalism are like this, okay? Liberal capitalism inevitably decays because of the inherent contradictions, okay? And it decays to a certain degree where the people can't take it any longer and they get angry and they're volatile. And at that point, fascism kicks in so that there's a mechanism of control. Fascism is capitalism in crisis. Fascism promises a restoration of a pecking order, a racial pecking order in many instances, that will then defend the interests of capital. Now, historically speaking, there was at least some kind of counterbalance to that. You're the KPD in Germany, as a matter of fact. But that balance, when it's completely eradicated, well, we know what happened. Nazi Germany is the eradication of all of the counterweights against fascism. That's where we're at right now. Historically speaking, we are currently living through that era. The Third Reich had incredible GDP growth until it no longer did. Yeah, I mean, militarism. Capitulation to right-wing framing will almost always yield the same results.
Migration. They want to push back against what they see as progressive woke ideology.
Would you say this is perhaps a new world order that they are promoting?
They would love that.
Oh, no, they're the ones who always talk about how there's a conspiracy to create a new world order, when if you really look at it, they're the ones trying to create it. They're shifting. There was an old paradigm, right, which was America post-war aligned itself with liberal Europe against communism. That was the stability of the world since World War II, was capitalism versus communism. It looks like there appears to...
Who's the Nazi Germany in our case? We are. And it's not the Nazi Germany, okay? Nazi Germany wasn't a standalone nation. It is a consortium of fascists that align on the same interests of dominance. Okay? It's so weird because, like, a lot of Nazi Germany's values, or rather methods of control, ironically come from the United States of America. Hitler looked at America and was like, damn, there's some really good ideas here. We should do that. Jim Crow, the Bracero program. These are all a lot of inspiration that Hitler drew from the United States of America. Literally gave the highest Medal of Honor to motherfucking Henry Ford, who was an out and about fascist. If it wasn't for FDR, things would have been very different, okay, in American history. I need you to understand something, okay? For some reason, a lot of what you understand about history is just completely wrong because it is purposefully eradicated a very significant component, a very significant counterbalance because of our war that Jon Stewart is like talking about now in, I guess, relatively colorful terms. Fascism and communism have fought against one another historically. Liberals eradicated the communism side of the story and engaged in historical revisionism, so many of you are completely oblivious to that reality. This is by design. Because as soon as World War II was done, we were like, all right, now off to the real fucking races, off to the real battle. Saying a lot of what I'm saying right now comes across as like tanky, or there's like reactionary. There are reactionary counters to what I'm saying that's basically built into the collective consciousness of people that are even online, like in independent media. You're on the internet. You're on a dude's channel on a fucking Twitch stream. Okay, we're a blip on the radar when it comes to overwhelming amounts of media that you can get from more traditional places, legacy publishers that will never offer this position to you, which is historically correct, by the way. And yet, even here, there are people that will immediately turn around and go, hold on, that seems like tanky talk to me. What do you mean the socialists and the communists were actually aligned against fascism? That's why you do this immediately. And this is a 29-month subscriber. Do you see this? Like, look at this. Molotov-Ribbentrop is basically, in American terms, the exact same way that, like, Republicans fucking be like, excuse me, Abraham Lincoln? Which party was he a part of? That's right. Liberals are the same people who defend the Klan. It's like, what happened after that, man? Okay, what happened after that? Who defeated the fascist scourge? Who? It's so fucking stupid. A lot of this long-terms they did, to be fair. Okay, so why are you bringing this up when I'm talking about communism and fascism being at odds? Because here's why you're ahistorical. Because communists existed in Germany at the time. They were slaughtered. Some of them literally slaughtered by the Social Democrats, who aligned with liberals and obviously fascists after. Okay? How did that happen? Why was it that the first concentration camps were set up not for Jews directly, but instead for trade unionists, communists, and socialists? Why is the first line of that very famous poem, "First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out, for I was not a communist"? Why is that the fucking first line of the poem? Have you ever thought about this a little bit? The notion that you bring up Molotov-Ribbentrop while I'm talking about like the inherent antagonism that Hitler felt towards communism and socialism as their main enemy here is so silly. Communism and socialism, trade unionism was presented as a Jewish plot, okay? Judeo-Bolshevism. Or, in modern terms now, cultural Marxism. I don't think this is a good way to argue, okay? Molotov-Ribbentrop is basically appeasement from the USSR, which understood that fascism was a problem. And yet, there wasn't enough interest from the Western world in combating it. Okay? Got a degree in history. Not only did Stalin actually have a plan to attack Germany later in the 1940s, regardless of Molotov-Ribbentrop, but the Western liberal powers made similar non-aggression pacts with Nazi Germany. Exactly. It is straight up people defending ahistorical approaches here when they bring that up out of the anger that they feel, the resentment that they've learned towards the USSR. There are many valid criticisms of the USSR. This is not one of them. So it's so odd when people try to do it. We are talking about a fucking collective that lost so many people fighting against the Nazi forces. The overwhelming majority of Nazis are still, they were still killed by the Russian, the USSR's forces, the Soviet forces. The U.S. then came into after the war and forced those European powers to oust any communists in government before they got any financial support from the U.S. Yes. It's weird. It's weird to have this approach. It's weird to like purposely sedate yourself. It's weird to say, I don't care about history. Like, I'm just going to fucking push this position over and over again. Okay? It's odd. You have to check yourself a little bit. Please. The Evergreen Felix banger, World War II is the only thing Americans know about, and we don't even actually know that much about it. I don't think that was Felix's tweet, but that's a great tweet. Yeah. How do we get here from the Jon Stewart interview? We got here from the Jon Stewart interview because Jon Stewart is talking to a person who's a right-wing writer for the Economist paper or magazine, which is a magazine, in the words of Lenin, for the British millionaires. Okay? She's the editor of the Economist, and she's talking about like how neoliberalism is still the only game in town to defend to combat fascism. And I'm explaining to my chatters and many other people, hopefully, how is EU becoming fascist? I am really curious why you reinforced that chatter's statement. I'm new to the stream. How is EU becoming fascist? It might have something to do with the many fascist parties and far-right parties that either have direct fascist historical roots or are comprised of like open out and about fascists rising to prominence in the European Union, in countries all around the EU. I hope that is a good way to describe the situation for you. You have Geert Wilders, okay? You have Maloney. Le Pen is going to win the election. AfD is rising in prominence in Germany. These are all direct right-wing fascist political parties. You have Viktor Orban already. Momentum in, Vox in Spain. That, and in the UK is identical to America. They have a feckless, completely neutered. You have a feckless, completely neutered Labour Party in the UK. Okay? I mean, you watch this play out internally within the Democratic Party. If Bernie Sanders was supposed to be like the Democratic Socialist entryist into the Democratic Party, look at how aggressively they squashed his mobilization, his movement. At the time, when Bernie ran again, the last election cycle in the primaries, and it looked like he was actually doing fairly well, the entire forces within the Democratic Party had to come together and combat his movement. People on MSNBC were talking about how if Bernie wins, there's going to be guillotines at Central Park. Chris Matthews literally said Bernie and his supporters were brown shirts and basically tanked his media career by saying that about a Jewish man, and also said that if Bernie supporters win, they will kill him at Central Park. They will put guillotines out of Central Park and execute him. Those are liberals. Why were they so aggressive towards a Democratic Party person like this? I'm telling you. The political assassination of Corbyn in the UK. Right-wing reactionary media and liberals who are also a part of that, legacy publishers in general, always align against any leftist momentum. We've experienced it. We've experienced this domestically. And you can extrapolate that same exact dynamic also at the global stage in other countries. It's not going to be a one-to-one comparison. No one wants socialism, you jobless weebs. That's why. That's right, baby. No socialism for me. I love having to pay for health care and being kicked out of coverage. That's my favorite. Okay? At least I remember that, you know, I'm free. It's freedom, baby. I'm free to choose. I'm free to choose whatever kind of health care decides to kick me out of coverage. Okay? That's right. The doctor took my toe. That was freedom. Yeah, I got diabetes toe. And now I got crippling medical debt in the only country in the OECD nations that has medical debt to begin with. A third of all debt in this country or something like that. But that's called freedom, baby. Let's go. Let's rise up, folks. Freedom to choose my health care that will fuck me over. Hell yeah.
To be a realignment.
I gotta pee.
Along the lines of not capitalism and communism, but woke and unwoke. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but it is what ties Putin to Trump and Orban to Trump. If you listen to Putin when he talks about Orthodox Christianity and Western society and anti-gay rhetoric, he sounds like a AM radio host.
Absolutely, and there are people in the Republican Party now who warm more to Putin than to Ukraine, for example. So I think you're right.
Oh, I think all of them.
No, not all of them. Not all of them.
Well, Mitch McConnell, but he just stops working every now and again.
No, I think there's a really serious point. There's a complete. You know, one way of thinking about it is a MAGA takeover of the Republican Party. But another, I think there's something more profound going on, which is there is potentially a kind of revolution in conservatism, which may end up being as big as the kind of Thatcherite, Reaganite revolution, which is taking it in a completely different direction.
No,
which is
it's
not
a populism
the Absolutely.
And a nativism, but it's combined with this anti-wokeism that almost seems to be the more powerful unifying theory than it is. It used to be economic theories, and now it's theories of social culture issues.
Identity, social culture.
That's right.
Absolutely. No, I think that's definitely a fault line, and the people you cite are definitely on one side of it. Whether it's a new world order yet, I don't know.
We did not talk about NATO. Donald Trump very famously came out and said, I would encourage Russia, this was years ago, to attack them so that they would pay their bills. As though the value of NATO is in what they can contribute financially. What is your thought on that?
He sounded
Are you
like
ready for the new world order? You will know nothing. And be happy. Okay, I got to run this back first of all, because I was pissing, but I was hearing what she was saying, and it's really fucking bad.
there is potentially a kind of revolution in conservatism, which may end up being as big as the kind of Thatcherite, Reaganite revolution, which is taking it in a completely different direction.
No,
which is
it's
not
a populism
the direction. Absolutely.
and a nativism, but it's combined with this anti-wokeism that almost seems to be the more powerful unifying theory than it is. It used to be economic theories, and now it's theories of social culture issues.
Identity, social culture.
That's right.
Absolutely. No, I think that's definitely a fault line, and the people you cite are definitely on one side of it. Whether it's a new world order yet, I don't know.
We did not talk about NATO. Donald Trump very famously came out and said, I would encourage Russia, this was years ago, to attack them so that they would pay their bills. As though.
By the way, this is where I deviate from well-intentioned progressive people like Jon Stewart or even Cenk, okay? I think this is the difference between people who fancy themselves to be social democrats in many instances, who still want liberal capitalism of a certain variety, versus someone who is someone who I guess gets their roots from a Marxist materialist interpretation of history, a materialist analysis. Okay? I don't think that they have well-intentioned social democrats or progressives, right, have a good answer to liberalism and its many capitulations to fascist right-wing movements. When they see a liberal like this, I don't think they have a good way of assessing the problem. They don't have a good way of analyzing it. And they just kind of align on even militarism sometimes. They align even on imperialism sometimes. Like, oh, they're anti-woke. Like, Republicans are anti-woke. Like, it doesn't matter. These are minor distinctions cultivated specifically so. These are minor distinctions specifically cultivated, specifically designed to make it seem like we don't have like a uniparty attitude when it comes to capitalism. Like, oh, one party is better than the other on this stuff, right? But ultimately, we have to do whatever we can to basically capitulate to the most reactionary framing on those issues.
Said, I would encourage Russia, this was years ago, to attack them so that they would pay their bills. As though the value of NATO is in what they can contribute financially. What is your thought on that?
He sounded like the mobster, right? They got to pay. They got to pay.
That's right.
Donald Trump doesn't, I think, understand what collective security is about. Like NATO is basically, if you attack the smallest NATO country, you're attacking America. That basic deal was understood by the Soviet Union and then by Russia. That's why we haven't had an attack on NATO. I think that is undermined by him basically saying it's a protectionist racket, which is what he... So I don't think Donald Trump cares about alliances, but the reason it's so disconcerting and worrying, if you're in Europe right now, is this is happening at a time when Vladimir Putin has already done a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. He is rearming much faster than Europe. Europe is a fundamentally more dangerous place. So even with Donald Trump nowhere near the White House yet, him saying it right now is destabilizing. It makes it much more likely that Putin, an aggressive dictator, it pushes further. And at the same time, you have this aid for Ukraine held up here in this country. And to be clear, aiding Ukraine, giving the money to Ukraine, is the cheapest possible way for the US to enhance its security. The fighting is being done by the Ukrainians. They're the people who are being killed. The US and Europe are supplying them weapons. And in doing so...
This is so radically honest. And it's wild how this position... It's wild how this position was, what obviously the real reason why we are so interested or so invested in maintaining a proxy war in Ukraine. And when I said it, a while ago, people would say, like, I'm pro Vladimir Putin. Like, how dare you? I have made concessions to the libs that say, well, see, Vladimir Putin does actually have genuine interest in, like, I don't know, or one aspect of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine is that he thinks Ukraine and Russia are one country, and it's all like there's no such thing as a Ukrainian. Okay, I've made concessions to the libs. They are right. They're right on that. He has said that. Okay, he did. He openly admitted it, especially with this last Tucker Carlson interview. Okay, so why won't the liberals or the radical progressives, especially online in this like independent sphere that we're in, that's not supposed to be as like, that's not supposed to be getting its fucking notes from the State Department, why can't they admit that like this part is also correct, that I was 100% right, that America does not have a real moral reason in wanting to, a real moral reason in wanting to defend Ukraine. There's no real moral reason there at all. And it's just simply about selling arms back into the military-industrial complex while also simultaneously throwing Ukrainian bodies at the fucking pile in an effort to cripple the Russian military. It's weird that this position that is now being broadly championed, even including the nefarious agenda behind it that Joe Biden openly admitted at his press briefing this morning, saying this helps American economy, you fucking idiots, is impossible to come to terms with for so many people. They would rather come to terms with the top of the hour ad break that is 3 minutes long, that's at the top of every hour, and subscribe so they can send me links and no longer see the top of the hour ad break before they even fucking come to terms with that reality that liberals are championing openly. They're saying it's economic reasons. They love this shit. It helps the American industry. She is taking the other approach, which is, it's great. We get to fucking fight against the supposed Russian invasion of Europe by throwing Ukrainian bodies at the problem. That Russia, if left to their own devices, would like march their troops to fucking France or some shit. Why do you assume that a lot of liberals have a problem with Ukrainians dying for domestic arms manufacturing? I assume that people, when given the entirety of a story, will probably still not be completely devoid of empathy. Okay? That's what I assume. I assume that when, like, well-intentioned liberals who have not been negatively polarized against whatever kind of fucking commentary I'm making by dudes who also defend, like, lolly porn, or dudes who defend, actually, it's a phobophilia arguments, which is not the lolly porn guy. That's the other one. Okay? I assume that when they come in here and they go, oh, wait, like, this guy actually is making a little bit more sense because, yeah, you're right. We should have some honest intentions here. Why did God make two of the same person? God made more than two of the same person. They all happen to be in the same social sphere, too.
We are pushing back against Putin. I mean, I've been to Kiev twice,
right,
and lived there 30 years ago, and you can't go there and not think this is...
Isn't it better materials analysis of Putin's moves, though, that they're more about mineral-rich Eastern Ukraine rather than it being about identity politics? I mean, that certainly plays into it, but I think his interest more so is to have a hand, no matter what happens, in Ukrainian politics, more so than the mineral richness of Eastern Ukraine. Okay? I don't think it's mineral richness at all. I think it's more so that Vladimir Putin has always wanted to have to enforce some level of fucking control over Ukrainian politics in an effort to ensure that Ukrainian politics is not completely lost to the Western sphere of influence through Western economic interests. It's not an honest or a just interest either, for the record. It's more so just simply his own perspective, his own way of, I guess, beefing up natural security. So instead of crying about liberals, what is your solution? What? I've talked about this already. A million times over. I think that America should have never been like, yeah, we're gonna bring in Ukraine into NATO or anything like that. That should have never been that should have never been a point of contention at all. Which it was never going to be regardless. But as far as my solutions goes, negotiations. Telling Ukraine, listen, like, this either ends here, okay? This either ends here now with some concessions made, then some concessions that we will extract from the Russian side. Because they don't want to fucking maintain this either. Okay? Or it ends with Trump at the table. And after the next election cycle, with significantly worse bargaining chip. Here's the problem. Okay? The leverage gets worse and worse as Russian positions harden on the Eastern Front. Okay? That's it. That's the major problem here. Like, if the 15-point peace plan was implemented in Turkey, hundreds of thousands of deaths could have been avoided. And if they actually did not follow through on said peace negotiations on the Russian side, then we'd be back to square one anyway. And the same goes for the Minsk agreements. If the Minsk agreements were followed through on, then I believe that none of this would have been a serious point of contention. I commend you for continuing to humor these libs who have been asking the same questions to you on Ukraine for 2 years at this point and not getting mad, Lamau. I try my very best, because this is the one issue that has like radicalized so many people away from this community. And I think it's not good, because when you are just like directly positioned against whatever the fuck I'm saying, you lose sight of having even a little bit of intellectual curiosity on the matter. And it unfortunately sucks, because when you lose sight of intellectual curiosity on this issue or on any global conflict at all, okay, you sedate yourself into believing that this is like a black and white circumstance. And there is good and bad in this situation. Obviously, yes, 100%, Russian forces are at fault. Okay, Vladimir Putin is almost single-handedly responsible for everything. And I say almost single-handedly because, you know, there are other pro-invasion Russians out there too, but he is the beacon. Why would this radicalize people away from you? Because a lot of people were like, well, Ukraine is being invaded. They're the good guys. Russia is invading them. They're the bad guys. And then they radicalized against like all Russians being orcs and fucking all this even Russophobic shit. I'm very consistent on this matter. I talk about Israel under zero uncertain terms. I tell you exactly what it's like. But I still maintain the position that there are, one, plenty of Israelis who are not in support of the apartheid, and that it is a necessity to maintain constant communication with said Israelis who are anti-apartheid. And I'm not talking about liberal Zionists, which exist. Sure, they're marginal, but it's important to maintain that constant connection. They play a very important role. What is this? I definitely think Trump would be better than what we have right now. Do you think about real life or no? Bidenomics has took us far. Do you pay for your own house, the food, work, or job, any responsibilities, or parents hold your hand? You think Donald Trump helped you get there? You think Trump in any way, shape, or form has helped you materially? You're out of your fucking mind if that's the case, if you believe that. I'm on the Hall of Fame, Trump 2024. I mean, look, I love you. We don't get a lot of Trump hogs around these parts, partner. Okay? Finally, we got some election. We got some fucking Trump hogs. All right, let's continue.
European country that is looking westward. And for the US to abandon it now, if it does, it's almost jaw-dropping.
The unfortunate part for Ukraine seems to be that it also holds a place in our culture war. Yeah. I don't think there's any principled opposition from the right in terms of sending arms. There might be in terms of the amount or the money or some of those things. I think they're really caught in the idea that Putin and Orban and that illiberal order are their natural allies. And so Ukraine, they have to paint that as...
It's because they are. Viktor Orban and everyone else are their natural allies. What do you mean?
Nazified or utterly corrupt, as though Russia is somehow fundamentally, just this unbelievable Valhalla. But I think that's why Ukraine. If Russia had done there somewhere else, Ukraine happens to hold a very strange place in this whole Burisma, Hunter Biden, illiberal, like.
Exactly. Donald Trump doesn't like Volodymyr Zelensky because.
Every party involved is bad. Okay, we're talking about Ukrainian politics. That's dog shit too. It's completely irrelevant to the point of contention here, because the Democrats are the ones who are ostensibly aligned with Ukraine because the Russian invasion of Ukraine happened under the Democratic reign. That's it. So the Democrats understandably reacted in the exact same way that they were supposed to. The Republican Party would have done the exact same thing that the Democrats did. Are you fucking kidding me? It's so dumb. And it's the same as Israel, okay? It's the same as Israel. That's it. This has nothing to do with like Ukrainian politics, the internal divisions within Ukraine, Nazis in Ukraine. Just like that had nothing to do with Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine from day one.
Because of the whole issue around the first impeachment and Burisma and all of that stuff.
That's right. It was a perfect call.
He holds grudges and he doesn't like Zelensky and he likes Putin because Putin's tough.
That's right.
That kind of thing. Then I think there are a bunch of Republicans who are genuine, what you might call old-fashioned isolationists, who just don't think the kind of US should be involved in this stuff. Right. Then there's a bunch who have perfectly reasonable concerns about whether the money's being well spent, corruption in Ukraine. There is plenty of corruption in Ukraine, whether it's all well spent. And then I think you're right. There are these, and let's call them the Tucker Carlson Republicans, who kind of have a sense that there is somehow Putin is the hero, and Ukraine is the villain, which is sort of hard to get your head around, but that does seem to be what...
Is it that hard to get your head around? I mean, it's hard to get your head around if you think about like how much Republicans are supposed to be super reactionary about Russia that they think is communist and a continuation of the Soviet rule. But is it that hard to wrap your head around? They're just fucking stupid. And they think Vladimir Putin is saying that he's defending trans existence, or I mean, defending anti-trans existence, sorry. And then that's it. Like a couple Telegram channels full of culture war shit, and they're like, yep, that's right. Vladimir Putin is my guy. Ukraine is gay and liberal. Why? Democrats defend it. Ukraine is gay and liberal because Democrats defend it. And Russia is based and red-pilled because Tucker defends it.
What they think.
Right. And I do think that's the world order that they would be pushing towards. But this gets back to journalism. In this country, it's all about the money, and there's very little talk about, even after September 11th, when Article 5 was invoked and they came to our defense.
Yeah, the only time Article 5 has been invoked was for us. Come to the defense of the United States.
And yet it really does boil down to, oh, is this just a financial transaction gone awry, or is this the valuable alliance that's kind of held together the world order? And which, by the way, though, we have to be able to criticize what it did in Iraq and all the...
Ukraine is gay and liberal, man. If only they really knew how gay people are treated there. Yeah, I mean... It will get gayer and more liberal, though. That's what Western involvement dictates, for sure. I mean, look at Taiwan, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but it is definitely used as like a way to do marketing. It's like the only way you can get liberals on board. You know what I mean? They're like, yep, that's right. Look at how gay it is. Look at how gay things are over here, guys. It can be used for evil, like pinkwashing Israel. No, that's precisely the point. That's what they use it for. That's why they do it in Israel. Dude, so many parallels between Russia and Israel exist, by the way. It's not even funny. But, of course, because Israel is the ally here, and so is Ukraine, there's also the same parallels of, like, pinkwashing.
These other things, but if we can't talk honestly about it, we end up shutting down all the conversation.
Of course. I think there is discussion about it. I mean, NATO, most of the time, for most Americans, is not something that's probably top of mind. But I think there is a kind of reasonable...
I have not been to a party where it's not the first thing people talk about when you go to the door.
You clearly move in serious circles. Wow.
I do. Generally, it's you go in, it's a little NATO talk, and then a keg stand. Thank you very much for being here. It's really fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Zanny, Minton, Beddoes of The Economist.
This was a shitty first guest, I'll be honest. I didn't like